The other day, I was at a Starbucks getting some work done, reading through the Bible on my iPad and taking some notes when this young gentleman in his mid-20s approached me and sat down at my table. In his right hand, he had a jar of sugar that he got from the communal bar on the other side of the coffee shop, and on his left hand, he had an empty paper cup. He looked at me with this nervous look and he started to pour the sugar into the cup, and he said this to me. He said, "This cup represents your life. And the more filled it is, the more joy you have in your life. If you want your cup to overflow, then you need Jesus." Now, at this point, I knew right away where he was going. So I stopped him and I said, "Hey, it's okay. I'm already a Christian. As a matter of fact, I'm a pastor. And look, here's the Bible on my iPad. I was just reading it right now." When I said that to him, the nerves in his face started to relax. And then he smiled and he said, "Okay." And he poured the sugar back into the communal sugar jar. And he moved over to the next table where there's a young lady. And he started to do the same presentation. Halfway through his presentation, the woman looked at him and said, "No, thank you, I'm not interested," in a very kind way. But he ignored her and continued to push his message on her. In about another minute, she stood up and walked away with a super frustrated look on her face. Now, I really appreciate his bravery, his creativity, and his laser-focused mission. There's something about that that really rubbed me the wrong way. And I think I know what it is, and I want to share that with you. Now, one of the main stories in the Old Testament starts with a man named Abraham who was given this huge task by God. This task was to go and repair the entire world. Now, Abraham had kids, and those kids had kids, and those kids had more kids. Eventually, they became so big, they became the size of a nation. And this nation, called Israel, had 12 sections to it, or 12 tribes. Now, God's plan for Abraham was pretty simple. God gives Abraham the light, and Abraham, as a torchbearer, takes that light and gives it to his children, and those children goes and spreads it to the world. But there's a huge turn in this story. God's people, the 12 tribes of Israel, ends up being enslaved in Egypt. So God sends a messenger there to pull them out, and in doing so, he pulls them into the Red Sea and out of the Red Sea, then to 40 years in the desert. By the time the story ends, the 12 tribes of Israel are in no place to save the world. Why? Because by then, they're broken, they're lost, and they're rejected. By the end of the Old Testament, the whole world, along with the 12 tribes of Israel, are left in the dark. Now let's fast forward to the story of Jesus. Now, according to the book of Luke, Jesus gets baptized, he goes under the water, he comes out, and he spends 40 days and 40 nights in the desert. And after that, he selects 12 people. And these 12 people are broken, lost, and rejected. Luke is trying to tell us this one simple and profound thing, that Jesus is the new Israel, and where Israel failed, Jesus is going to succeed. And the way he's going to do this is with the exact same strategy as Abraham, but with one small change. Luke 9 is a pivotal chapter in the story of Jesus. This is the part where Jesus takes the 12 disciples and says, "The light I've given you, I want you to go and spread it to the people you're about to encounter. But before you do that, there's one thing I need you to know." He says, "As you go, I don't want you to take with you your staff. I don't want you to take with you your bags, your money, your extra change of clothes. Don't take any food. I just want you to go as you are into those villages." He said, if you go into a village and you're looking for a place to stay and you find one, stay at that same house for the rest of your time there. If you go in there and somebody says, "I don't want you to be here, I don't want your message," then just pick up your stuff and leave. What Jesus was trying to teach his disciples was to go into a village with humility. Be humble. Why? Because this is all about relationships. If they walked into the village with no needs, they would have no need for any interactions. Having needs is often the gateway to deeper connection. You see, what I believe is that the gentleman at the cafe, he had no relationship with the people he was interacting with. To him, it was just a checklist of things to do. So brothers and sisters, may 2019 be a year where we invest in deeper relationships. And may God's light continue to grow into the community through us.